Welcome to the webinar Basic Implant Scanning Application with the Straumann SIRIOS X3. This lecture will be presented by Ron Roche, and we will begin shortly. And now tonight, joining our speaker, we have two of our famous CTF trainers. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Robert Cole and Mrs. Kelly Lippenthrodt. They are here at your service to say hello, introduce themselves, and feel free to reach out to them too.
I'm excited to be here tonight.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. So if anyone has any questions following the course, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you both for joining us this evening. I know for the audience, it's always great to put faces with the names. And now, for our guest star this evening, I get to introduce Ron Roche. He is the Business Development Manager and Software and Cloud Platforms with Straumann Group. Ron Roche is a Business Development Manager for Software and Cloud Platforms at Straumann Group with more than 30 years of experience in the medical and dental device industries. He specializes in digital dentistry, including CAD/CAM technologies, guided surgery, and integrated clinical laboratory workflows. Mr. Roche has led leadership roles supporting the development and adoption of digital solutions for dental professionals. He is an experienced speaker and educator, delivering programs focused on improving workflow efficiency, enhancing collaboration, and supporting predictable outcomes through digital implant dentistry. And now it is my pleasure to say, take it away, Ron.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me tonight. Our topic tonight, of course, is basic implant planning with the Straumann SIRIOS X3 scanner. We're going to run through the workflow for that basic implant planning, and then I'm going to pick up my scanner back behind me over my shoulder here and a couple of models and actually do an implant scan for you. So the scanner we're talking about tonight is the Straumann SIRIOS X3 scanner. It has a pen grip design to make it a little easier to hold. I'm not going to go through all of these features here. It's one of a new crop of modern scanners on the market. I think if you're involved in intraoral scanning and have a scanner that's 3 years or 5 years or 7 years old, I think if you pick up any one of the newer scanners on the market today, you'll be blown away with how far intraoral scanning has come. So most of what I'm going to cover tonight is applicable to any scanner, but obviously I'm using my SIRIOS X3 scanner in the slides and the live scanning later on. When you log into the scanner, this is the screen you're going to see. You'll notice there are 5 different workflows on the screen. We are developing customized workflows to make your progress through the software easier, more logical, and more guided. Okay. Today, we're going to focus, of course, on the crown and bridge workflow. In the scanner software, the crown and bridge workflow refers to both tooth-borne and implant-borne restorations. So essentially, anytime you are going to want to place a restoration on a tooth number, you would choose this workflow. The other workflows are for things like dentures, bite splints, night guards. There's all different workflows here. But tonight, our focus, of course, is basic implant scanning, and that's found under the crown and bridge workflow. Okay. Once you choose that, you come to this screen here, and this is the screen where you set up the lab prescription. Okay. I've had some new users say, oh, do I have to go through this whole screen? You do have the option to come down here and select no treatment plan, in which case you can communicate to the lab with a typewritten note. Okay, you can always just open the notepad and say, make me a zirconia crown for number 9. That's fine. But if you prefer to just click and choose from drop-down lists, there is a very slick lab script process right built into the software here. So you click on the tooth hanging off the relevant tooth number, and that opens up a treatment planning wheel and some drop-downs. The first one we choose, what is the restoration? Well, this is going to be a crown, okay? And then over to the material side, we want zirconia. And by the way, this material list, totally customizable. So I would recommend that you work with your laboratory, come up with a proper list of proper names of materials and enter them in there so you can choose them right from the list very easily. 5-minute one-time customization process will make your use of the software much smoother and quicker. And then choose a color, a shade, okay? You can do shade gradients, 1, 2, or 3 shades on a tooth. And there are a number of different shade guide systems built into the software. I have chosen Vita Classical here, just happen to be most common, but there are a bunch in there you can choose from. Okay. We're talking basic implant scanning tonight, so you need to choose an implant. Okay. There are many implant systems built into the software, and you can add to those very easily. The example I have in my model today, obviously I work for Straumann. The model I have here is a Straumann implant. So when you choose the implant, you just scroll down to S and choose the appropriate implant. I'll show you that when I get into the software live and do the actual scanning. This is the treatment planning wheel. There's 4 quadrants. The first one is a type of restoration. The little crystalline structure there implies materials. That's your material choice. The artist palette is your shade choice. And then the implant, you only go in there if it's an implant-borne restoration. Tooth-borne restorations, you of course wouldn't bother going into the implant. When you've made all your selections, okay, the software has sort of a summary of your lab script. Here it is. At number 3, I see that I've treatment planned some kind of implant and some kind of restoration on top of it. The details of that are down below. Number 3, crown, zirconia, A2, Straumann, bone level, RB. Okay. Off to the right, notice that under additional scans, when you treatment plan an implant, the software is going to automatically select an additional scan for you. When you are scanning for a tooth-borne restoration, you only are required to complete 3 scans. Obviously, the prep arch, the antagonist, and the bite. Okay. There is an optional preoperative scan as well in those tooth-borne restorations, but the required scans are 3: prep arch, antagonist, and bite. With implant-borne restorations, the required scans are 4. You're going to need to scan the emergence profile. So as that healing abutment comes out, you all know that the soft tissue is going to immediately start collapsing, and you want to capture that emergence profile quickly so that you capture the emergence profile that you spent so much time shaping with that healing abutment. So you capture that, then you're going to capture the antagonist, the bite, and then you'll insert a scan body into the implant and capture the scan body. So 4 scans total: emergence profile, antagonist, bite, and scan body. When you go into the next screen, this is the scan screen. The scanner will come on and be connected to the software automatically. Okay. And you'll notice over here that my workflow has exploded. So my scan section has opened up, and there are now 4 options below the scan step. If I go back 1 slide, you'll notice that scan is kind of off the screen down here. When we move next and go into scanning, the scan section opens up, and there's my 4 scan workflow. In my case, the antagonist is first, then the emergence profile, then the bite, then the scan body. So software guides you through each needed step in the scanning. Okay. One thing that's important to note about that emergence profile capture: when you first go into the surgical arch, and you first remove the healing abutment, you're going to capture that emergence profile. You're going to quickly do buccolingual, mesial, distal, get the entire sulcus, get the contact surface of the neighboring teeth, and then pause your scanning. You'll see me do this when I get to live scanning later. I'm going to pause the scanning and then use the lock scan tool to circle the area of the emergence profile and lock it. I'm doing that because I'm going to need to complete that arch, and completing that arch is going to take several seconds, right? And we don't want to come back over that emergence profile and change the contour. So as those tissues collapse, if I have to bring my scanner back over that surface, I don't want to replace the good sulcus I captured right away with the bad sulcus that has since collapsed in. So we capture the sulcus immediately after the healing abutment came out. Then we pause, get the lock tool, lock it, and then complete the arch scan. Okay. So if in the process of completing the arch scan, we have to go back over that site, it won't rewrite that area. Okay. All right. So we do the arch scan. Okay. We complete the emergence profile arch. Okay. Then we do the bite. You'll see me go through this live in just a few minutes. Okay. And then of course the scan body. The scan body, you can scan obviously any scan body you're using as long as your lab accepts that scan body. That's the critical thing. Make sure you're using a scan body your lab can work with. Okay. And the important thing about capturing the scan body is, of course, getting it from all angles. Okay. Buccal and lingual will be easy. Mesial and distal, depending on the size of the site, can sometimes be more difficult. I'll talk about some of the techniques for getting in there and capturing those surfaces when we get to the live scanning, but it should look like this. And one kind of important thing to think about with this new version of the software is that we used to have to cut out the area where the scan body is and then come in and rescan that area. When you get to the scan body scan here, the software is going to present you with the emergence profile scan you took previously. When I get to the scan body step, the software is going to present me with that arch, and all I need to do is just bring the scanner in the mouth, reacquire, and run over that scan body and capture it again, buccal, lingual, medial, distal. And there is a feature in the software. It is optional. It's under this tooth tagging feature. I'll talk more about this when we're scanning live, but you have the ability to tag that scan body. And when you do, the software is going to say, hey, do I recognize that scan body? Can I confirm that that is the scan body you treatment planned back on the lab script when I said Straumann bone level RB? Okay. And right now, this little orange dot is telling me that no, that is not the scan body I treatment planned previously. Okay. When I choose the correct scan body through a drop down here, that dot turns green, and I have now validated my scan body. The topic of validating scan bodies chairside is relatively new in intro scanning. The vast majority of scans taken across the digital dentistry world, I mean like 95% or more, are not validated chairside. So if you're not scanning with a Straumann group scan body, don't worry about this feature, okay? It's an optional feature for Straumann group scan bodies. For any other scan bodies, you would just move on right through this, okay? Your lab will be able to verify your scan body when they receive the scan, okay? That's all I had for the presentation. Let me go ahead and jump live scan. Yes.
A clarifying question on that
Yeah.
last part.
Last slide, yeah.
Right there, the tooth scan verification. So it can only do for Straumann group. So if if the doctor's using a different brand of implant, should they not press the tooth tagging button and just ignore that part?
Yeah, there's no benefit to even going in there unless it's a Straumann group implant.
Okay.
So there's a lot of scan bodies in the world and obviously a lot of implants in the world. And for 95, 99% of the scans that are going to be captured chairside, that scan body is going to be recognized in the lab, and NDX certainly is a digital lab extraordinaire, so they can recognize your scan body. The only reason to do this, to go into this tooth tagging, is if you're scanning a Straumann group scan body. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and end the PowerPoint and we'll go into the SIRIOS software, which is running right here. Okay, perfect. That works smoothly, keeping that running. All right, let's go ahead and go into a crown and bridge workflow. So these, of course, are the 5 workflows I was talking about earlier. And we'll go into crown and bridge. I do need to give it a name. So I have a patient, my favorite patient named Test, actually all of his siblings here. Okay, all right, we'll select him. All right, perfect. So I now need to set up my lab script. Well, I don't need to, but I do prefer to set up a lab script. I could, as I mentioned, just click on no treatment plan, meaning I can ignore the dental chart, and then just go into my notepad and say, number 9, oops, got to click in there. Okay. Actually, this is number, upper arch left, this is number 3. Number 3, Zerk crown. Okay. So I could do this. Okay. But that's not me. I'm not that person. Okay. I want to actually use my treatment planning tools here. So yes, this is in fact number 3, and I'm going to want a crown there. And I'm going to want that out of zirconia. And I mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of different shade guide systems built into the software, and you can add to these, but I'm going to stick with Vita Classical. And it's a molar, so I'll stick with 1 shade. And we'll just, I think the patient was 8. Okay. And now we'll go to my implant list. And I mentioned before, there's a whole bunch of implants built into the system, but you can add to them very easily. And this one, the scan body, I know happens to be a bone level RB. Okay, so I just make those selections and click done. When I click done here, and then I have to close the treatment planning wheel. As soon as I do that, you'll see that I have a threaded cylinder here under number 3. This is important because we're working on drop-down lists with a touchpad, and sometimes I might intend to choose this and click done, But if I accidentally click somewhere else on screen and it closes, if I don't hit done, I don't get my threaded cylinder. I get just one of these straight lines. So when you treatment plan an implant, make sure you see the implant in the chart, okay? That's your way of confirming that you correctly treatment planned that implant, okay? Details of what I treatment planned are down below. Number 3, material, zirconia A2, Straumann bone level RB. Okay, over here, my additional scan is already selected for me. So I just hit next. When I hit next, my scanner is going to be connecting, pick it up out of the charger. That prompts it to start looking for the computer. Okay, and here it comes. I'm watching my scanner ring here glowing green, and that tells me it's connecting up. Software sees it, okay, and now it's connected. My scanner battery is at 71%, okay, and it is ready to scan. I will point out right down below, so this is the scanner tile, and right below the scanner tile here is the soft tissue filter, okay? I want to mention this feature because it's relevant in many implant scanning cases. So this is the feature in the software that's going to automatically detect and eliminate lips, cheeks, and tongues. Nobody wants lips, cheeks, and tongues in their scans, right? But this filter does much more than that. There are 3 different soft tissue levels in the software here. The first one on the left is for primarily dentate arches. It will allow the software to capture all the hard tissues, all the teeth, and about 2 to 5 millimeters of soft tissue from the gingival margin, okay? So think of that as being your tooth-borne inlays, onlays, crowns, veneers. Notice I didn't say bridges. Inlays, onlays, crowns, and veneers. That's all you need, the dentition and 2 to 5 millimeters of tissue. But if you're scanning a tooth-borne or implant-borne bridge, especially a longer span bridge, you're going to want more than 2 to 5 millimeters of soft tissue. So you're going to want to switch to this middle level here. You'll also go to this middle level if you're scanning for some kind of appliance and you want a deeper flange on your appliance and therefore need to capture a deeper vestibule, okay? Same thing, you'll come to this middle option, all right? And the third button here actually turns off the soft tissue filter, allows the scanner to capture whatever you pointed at, whether it's hard tissue or soft tissue. When would you use that? Obviously, when you're scanning a patient who presents fully edentulous, maybe for a digital denture workflow, okay? Just be careful when you do this. This is an advanced scanning technique. Be careful when you're scanning fully edentulous. It is an advanced scanning technique, and understand that when you turn off this filter, the scanner will capture whatever soft tissue you pointed at, including lips, cheeks, and tongues, okay? So you become the filter. You'd only turn the scanner on when you are in the mouth pointing at what you want to capture, okay? For tonight's purposes, I'm scanning a printed model, so the software is going to perceive it all as hard tissue, so it doesn't really matter what I put it on, okay? All right, with that said, let's go ahead and jump over to our workflow. Over on the left side of the screen, the scan section's opened up, and I have 4 scans to take here. There are some user preferences in the system that determine what your scan order is going to be. I think the most popular choice is to start with what we call the prep arch. That could be the prep arch for a tooth-borne case or the surgical arch for an implant case, okay? To start with that. In my case, I don't have that feature turned on. I'm starting with the lower arch in every single case, and that's probably less convenient when it comes to implant cases. But understand that the order of these scans is up to the user. And even though my workflow is specifying lower than upper, I can always change that. If I want to start with the upper emergence profile, I can. So doctors, the doctors in the audience here, if you want to come in, take that healing abutment off, scan the prep, and then walk away and let your staff finish scanning everything else, you absolutely can do, not the prep, the emergence profile. You absolutely can do that. So I can take this emergence profile scan first. Let me just quickly show you my model. I'm going to momentarily stop sharing my screen. Okay, so here's me in my office, and this is the model I'm scanning. So I've got an implant right here. Okay, let me go ahead and reshare the screen, and we will jump in and start scanning. Okay, so I switched over to start on my emergence profile arch. The first thing I'm going to do is capture that emergence profile, because I just now removed the hypothetical healing abutment, right? It's the plastic model, but if it were a patient, I would have just removed that healing abutment, and I want to capture that sulcus before it collapses. So I come into the mouth, I turn on my scanner with the top button, okay, and I immediately capture buccolingual, make sure I get mesial contact surface, distal contact surface, and then I pause my scanning right there. Capture that sulcus immediately, quickly before it collapses. Let me just verify that I got all my contact surfaces. I did. Okay, so now I'm going to take my lock tool and I am just going to lock this area, just circle it just like that. Okay, everything in blue is now locked, will not be changed or altered no matter how many times I go over it again. Now I need to finish that arch. Maybe I hand the scanner to my assistant now to finish the arch because I've done what I have to do. Okay, and now she'll come in, she'll finish scanning that molar, and then just come right around the arch with the occlusal pass, rock to the facial, come back around the arch, doing a facial pass, rock to the palatal, and come around the arch, doing a palatal pass. And now I can just quickly look at my scan from the occlusal. Do I have everything I need? Yeah, I sure do. And I'm done with arch. The important thing is capturing that emergence profile first. So now it just cleans that up. And yes, I realize there are some holes over here that I didn't capture with my scanner. They're not relevant to this indication. So I'm not going to waste time filling holes that are not relevant to my indication. So now I press the second button on my scanner and notice that the scan body scan is now available to me as an option now. Because I've captured the emergence profile arch, I can go on to the scan body now, or I can go on to the antagonist and do the lower, okay? I'll go ahead and do the lower arch. My occlusal pass. Okay, I'll rock to the facial, come around and do a facial pass. And come around and do a lingual pass. Okay, this is just my antagonist. Let me just review and make sure I got all the occlusal table. I do. Okay, so good enough. I can stop right there. Okay. And now just to point out, because I now have the antagonist captured, all of my scans, including the bite, are available to complete. So the scans turn that light green color when they're available for you to complete. Okay. So I can now go on and do my bite. There we go. Okay. The bite with the SIRIOS scanner is a little bit different than some of the others. Some of the other scanners want you to go up and down as you progress forward, taking your bite. Here, we're just going to insert the scanner down the buccal corridor to the most distal extent of the upper lower contact. So in this case, that's going to be second molar. Once I'm in position there, I'm just going to turn the scanner on and pull the scanner forward, straight forward, quickly and immediately. Okay. So I come back into my second molar contact, turn the scanner on and pull forward. Okay, the software is going to automatically stop that bite scan when it has enough data and bring the arches together. Okay, perfect. Now I press my second button one more time and my workflow moves on to the scan body scan. Okay, so now I need to just insert my scan body. 1 second while I do that. Okay. So just to show you what I have here now in my camera. So I have my scan body in my implant. Okay. Same model. All righty. Now let's go ahead and there we go. Okay. So in my workflow, I'm on upper scan body. The software is presenting to me the upper arch that was previously captured when I captured the emergence profile. I don't need to cut anything. I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to put the scanner back in the mouth and just start scanning that scan body. I do need to reacquire the arch with the scanner, so I'm going to go in and just hover over the bicuspids for a moment, turn the scanner on. As soon as it reacquires, I'll move posterior and grab that scan body. So I come into my mouth, on my bicuspids, instantly reacquires, and then I come back over and just capture that scan body. Again, lingual is easy, facial is easy. In this case, mesial distal is also easy, it's a molar. But if it were a narrower site, getting those surfaces is difficult, and I recommend coming in from the side like I'm doing here. and then come in from the side here, and then come around the lingual and do the same palatal, and same thing, come from the side here and come from the side there. It is also possible, in this case, it's easy to come from the top and just look down the sidewall because I don't have much obstruction there. But if you were in a narrower anterior space, a lateral, something like that, probably a lot easier to get the mesial and distal surfaces of the scan body by looking at it from the facial and from the palatal. Okay, so scan body is captured. There was no need to erase anything. It doesn't matter if at this point my soft tissue is all collapsed, because I preserved the soft tissue scan back here under the emergence profile scan and locked it, and that's what will be communicated to the lab. So the fact that my soft tissue is collapsed by the time I get to this scan, not an issue at all. If you do want to trim your scan, I would say the only time trimming is relevant to you as a scanner user, so the clinical users, is if you are printing your own models, okay? If you're having a model printed at the laboratory, they will trim it. And the whole concept of trimming, a well-trimmed model makes a much neater, cleaner, a well-trimmed scan makes a much neater, cleaner model, okay? So if you're having a model made and it's being made at the lab, they'll take care of trimming it. If you're following an all digital model-free workflow, trimming it is irrelevant. If you're printing your own models, trim tool is kind of neat to get used to. Since it's on screen and some of you might wonder what it is, high def areas, okay? That's this crown prep right here. Now, we're not focusing on the crown prep tonight. This is about basic implant planning, but any areas that you designate as a high def area will be saved in a much, much higher resolution. The question often comes up, well, why don't you just save the whole scan in that higher resolution? Because the file would be enormous, okay? It would slow down everybody's software and nobody would like it. So we only save crown preps in high def, okay? If your crown prep is not recognized, like for example, there's a veneer prep right here, okay? And the software didn't notice it. So I can click on high def areas and say, yeah, this should be high def as well. And I can grow or shrink how much of that I want in high def, okay? So again, that's a tooth-borne restoration issue, not implant-borne, but just because you might see that on there and wonder what that's for, that's what it's for, okay? So now I'm done with all my scanning. My scanner goes back in the cradle, be disinfected later. My gloves come off. The scanner ships with a laptop that has a touch screen. So we normally recommend that while you're gloved up and scanning, that you interact using the touch screen, not the keyboard and touchpad, okay? Reason for that, of course, the touch screen, easy to disinfect later with a simple wipe down, depending on your public health policies in your jurisdiction, either a alcohol wipe or cavi wipe, easy to disinfect a screen, more difficult to disinfect a keyboard and a touchpad. So we recommend leaving that until this point when your gloves have come off, and now you can come to the computer with clean hands and come down here and click on the review step. The review step here is, this is the step where the scan data is being turned into your surface scans. So everything you've seen on screen up until now has just been a cloud of data points. Now the software is going through that cloud of data points, looking for and deleting any duplicate or triplicate data, because we all pass over surfaces more often than we need to, okay? And then taking the remaining surfaces and dissolving it into all those triangles that make up your STL and PLY scans. And I mentioned STL and PLY when I talk about that on purpose, because there are two file formats. STL is the original 3D file format. And back then, none of us thought anybody would ever care about color. So STL file is an achromatic format. It contains no color information. If you see a scan that has pink gingiva and white teeth, it is not an STL file. It's most likely a PLY file, much newer file in the 3D world, and it contains color information for each triangle, each point in the mesh. And so you can have pink gingiva and white teeth shown with that. That is the format that has taken over dentistry. I think at this point, just about any lab will accept a PLY file. We create both with every single scan you take. So you take a scan, the software is going to create a PLY and an STL on every scan. In the preferences in the software, there's an area where you set what scan you want to send by default to your lab, okay? And the best choice today for most labs is to be PLY, because that sends them the mesh and the color. And a lot of times when they're looking for margins, again, falling back on tooth-borne workflows, when they're looking for margins, they'll toggle between color on, color off, color on, color off to find that best margin. So now I'm looking at my actual scans, okay? This is the review step, okay? And here I have an optional feature that I want to show you. So in tooth tagging, I click on this, it opens up it looks back to the treatment plan that we set, that lab script, where we said number 3 had an implant on it. And we said it was a Straumann bone level RB. So I click on this, it opens up the arch and it presents it to me. And it's asking me to select that scan body so it can analyze it and decide if it recognizes that scan body. So if I go ahead and click on the top surface, the flat top of this round scan body, not on the flat side, not down here, not on any of the vertical, but on this donut up top, I click on this, the software then is going to analyze the shape of that scan body and see if it matches what I said it was. And over here is the answer. That orange dot says, nope, that is not what you said it was. If I click in here again, I can see this is the scan body it is expecting, and this is the scan body I have in the mouth. You can see they are differently shaped. Straumann actually makes a couple different scan bodies for this implant. Let me check this one. I go to this one, and you can see this shape is the same as this shape, and now my dot turned green. So I have just validated that scan body. All right, now, do we need to validate the scan body? The answer to that question is, back when you were taking analog impressions, did you ever validate that your impression post was the correct one? No, your lab took care of that, okay? And today, in the world of digital impressions, the vast majority of implants scanned, the scan body is validated in the laboratory, okay? But this being a Straumann scanner with Straumann software, Straumann offers an optional feature for when you are scanning Straumann implants to move that validation a step closer to the patient and having you validate chairside. The only thing that does is eliminate that very small possibility that the lab would say, hey, we can't see your scan body properly enough. You need to rescan your patient. So it eliminates that. But now I'm purposely going to leave this unvalidated, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And I get this message here. Some implants are invalid. It just means the scan body is not validated. You understand that most scan bodies are validated in a lab, not chairside. So I'm just going to say proceed anyway. Okay. If I look at the scan body, and let me stay here for a minute. I look at the scan body and say I didn't capture all of it. Okay. Then maybe I might want to say rescan. Okay. But if you know you captured it, if you look at it, you see it's captured, just click proceed anyway. Not a problem. The lab will get it and they'll recognize it. This is the transfer step to where you send it to the lab. I'm not going to go in detail over this. This is not relevant to, I guess, basic implant planning. You can add the prescription to the case. It's important to add the prescription if you are sending it to the lab. Otherwise, they're just going to get the scans. So if you're sending your scan to a commercial laboratory, you definitely want to check off add prescription, because when I hit send, this is the prescription. If they don't get this, they're not getting single number 3 crown zirconia A2 Straumann art, all that. They're not getting that. They're not getting patient name, Mr. Test. Okay, so it's important to add that prescription to the case, or the lab will not get this information right here. Okay, so that is the process beginning to end for basic implant planning. Some questions that I know come up often if you're scanning multiple units, and of course it's important to capture that emergence profile. So what I would do is capture one at a time. Remove one healing abutment, capture that area, okay? Move along the arch with the scanner to the next site, pause, remove that healing abutment, capture that area, and move along to the next. But it's important that you capture those emergence profiles before they collapse. So make sure you're following a workflow that allows you to do that, okay? And there are a bunch of different types of healing abutments in the market. If you are using one of these scannable healing abutments, you're still going to follow the same workflow in our software here. You're just not going to have to remove the healing abutment, because you just scan it in place, right? These scannable healing abutments are fantastic. They ensure that you have the emergence profile, because the emergence profile is created by that scannable abutment, and you simply have to scan the top of it, okay? And then the laboratory extrapolates what the emergence profile is from that. And many implant companies now have those. Certainly we do, and many others do. And the workflow here in the software, exactly the same. You just won't be using a scan body. You'll just run over the animal healing abutment the second time. Okay. Any questions on anything I presented?
Ron, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So I know you touched on the tissue filter a little bit, but if you're doing, say, I think you have a presentation on full arch as well, but if you're doing a full arch, or if you're doing a implant bridge, you would adjust that tissue filter?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just show you one extra. I'm glad you asked that question, because I want to show you one more thing about that. Let's get back in here. So test, good. No treatment plan. We're just going to right forward. Here we go. Okay. So when I'm scanning, I did provide patient details. Test. Didn't click on them. There we go. Okay. Next. All right. So when I'm scanning, let's go ahead and connect again. I should have left my scanner off the charger so it would have stayed connected. There we go. Blinking and all right, so I'm scanning, all right, and now I have no bridge gap here, but let's say I come to a space where I've got a bridge gap and I want to scan the soft tissue. If I press and hold the top button on my scanner, press and hold it, this on-screen menu comes up, and I can use the bottom button to toggle through this whole on-screen menu, and I'll switch to the second soft tissue level, press my top button, and now I can proceed, and now I've just changed my soft tissue scanning. So to your question, yeah, if you're scanning a bridge case, whether it be implant borne or tooth borne, doesn't much matter. If you've got a long edentulous gap, like for a bridge, then you definitely want to move to that middle section in order to capture that soft tissue better. And you can do that while you're scanning. So let's say it's an anterior bridge, you come to that gap in the bridge, just press the top button 2 seconds, press the bottom button to change the second scan level, back to the top to move on, and then you can scan that edentulous area without ever turning the scanner off, without ever going to the screen or the keyboard or anything. The on-screen menu helps you make those setting changes while you're scanning live. Yep.
Ron, before you put it back on the charger, I missed a question about 15 minutes back, so I apologize to the audience member. They asked if you've locked the initial soft tissue profile scan. When you place the scan body and then scan, does the scanner know to integrate the two scans?
Yes, yeah. So absolutely. So what happens in that workflow, let's see if I can just this is my case here. Let me just duplicate that. I can't reopen that one because we already sent it to the lab. Let me just duplicate it. And as soon as it duplicates, I can reopen it and I'll show you that. Okay, this is the one I just duplicated. Okay, open case. And let's go back to scanning. So we capture the emergence profile, okay? And your question was, when I get to the scan body, does it integrate them? So when I go to the scan body scan, delete the upper scan body, yes. Okay, all right. So now when I did the bite scan, all right, that all worked. I hit next and I come to the scan body scan. It presents to me the data I captured in the emergence profile scan, all right? It presents that to me. Now, all I have to do is scan. Do I still have it in there? Yeah, I do. Okay, my scan body is still in the model. Okay. All right. So all I have to do is get my scanner reattached to the arch. And for those of you that have used almost any scan body, you know that means just hover over somewhere you've been before. So I've been all over this arch before. So for the sake of ease, I'm just going to come in and pause over my bicuspids. Once the scanner, reacquires the arch, I push back and get my scan body. So I hover over the bicuspids, instantly it acquires them, and then I come back and just capture my scan body and buccal, lingual, mesial, distal, like I said before. Okay, and now I'm done. Okay, and what the software is doing is making an entire full copy of the upper emergence profile scan and adding that new data. So yes, it merges the two, creates a whole copy. When I go, let me just go to the one that's already completed. So where's the one that's completed? This one here. Let's open this case. Okay, and you'll see they have a bunch of scans here. So let me here's my lower arch scan. Here's my upper emergence profile scan. You can see this one has no scan body. And this is my upper scan body scan. And the only thing I scanned here was the scan body. The rest of this all came from this scan. So it merged them and integrated them automatically. The lab gets them as two separate scans, but clinically, all I had to do was capture this little area here, and it created this entire scan. I hope that answered the question, but yes, it merges them automatically.
Audience, thank you for joining us. And you know, I always bid you adieu with, we wish you to take care of those patients. And please don't forget to tell us how we can take care of you inside the survey that's located in the platform.